Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Hazel here with a new video for you. In this video, we'll be diving into the masters and servants of the Fourth Holy Grail War in the Fate Zero anime. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, just sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So let's get started. The Fourth Holy Grail War is an important event in the main Fate timeline. The anime Fate Zero takes place before the Fate Stay Night UBW, and Fate Stay Night Heaven's Field timelines. Fate Zero sets up each version's possible events in its adaptations. The Fourth Holy Grail War has a lot of deception and planning compared to the Fifth Holy Grail War. The reason for this is that many of the masters in the Holy Grail War are intelligent and cunning. Fair warning, I may pronounce some of these names wrong. The 7 masters in the Fourth Holy Grail War are Kenneth Archibald Melowi, Kiritsugu Emiya, Tokoyomi Tosaka, Kire Kotimine, Waver Velvet, Kariyamato, and Uryu Ryunosuke. Starting with Kenneth Archibald Melowi, he was a teacher at the Clock Tower. The Clock Tower was a school for magists, those who practice magecraft, and he is a part of a prestigious family. He was initially supposed to summon Alexander the Great, but Waver Velvet would steal the item with a connection to Alexander. Due to this theft, Archibald would summon Diarmuid Uadubne as a Lancer servant instead. Lancer was a noble knight in life who had betrayed his lord and fell in love with his master's love. He was killed for it, but did not blame anyone and didn't regret his decision. Diarmuid sought to serve his new master in the Holy Grail War. He would follow all of his master's wishes, even against his desires, eventually leading to his death. One characteristic of Diarmuid is that he is cursed to attract women, and it works on his master's wife. After an earlier conflict between Kiritsugu left Kenneth with nerve damage, he would be too weak to stop his wife from falling for Diarmuid, torturing him into giving control of his servant to her. In a major conflict in the war, the Saber servant and her master Kiritsugu would fight them again. Kiritsugu, using underhanded tricks, made a contract with Kenneth that he would use his last command seal for Diarmuid to kill himself. Kiritsugu can't kill him or his wife. Kenneth then orders Diarmuid to kill himself, resulting in Diarmuid cursing out Saber and everyone there. Then, a follower of Kiritsugu killed Kenneth and his wife. Diarmuid possessed dual spears named Geidirg, a spear that pierces through mana, and Geibuid, a spear that makes any wounds caused by it unhealable. His 2 spears would be his noble phantasms during his fights. Feats he accomplished in the anime include helping fight off Castor, fighting against Saber, and outsmarting her at times. He was known for his speed and keen intellect in battles. Unfortunately, he was ordered to die by his own hand. The following master and their servants are Kiritsugu Emiya and his servant Saber. Kiritsugu was a magist who had a terrible past, having his father do horrible experiments on people and having to kill his master when he was younger. He would be tasked with being a participant for the Iceborn family. He would seek world peace and believe that the Holy Grail could help him get it. He would summon a Rosha Pendragon, also known as King Arthur. He was surprised that King Arthur was a girl. He would assign Saber to protect and be with Irisviel, the container for the Holy Grail, while he would fight behind the scenes. Kiritsugu, throughout the series, would fight many of the masters in the war. He would, by himself, defeat Kenneth, Kotimine, and Uryu. Saber herself would fight many other servants during the war. She would kill Alexander the Conqueror, Lancelot, and Gilgamesh. Saber would fight almost every servant in the war. First, she would fight Lancer, resulting in her getting injured and Lancer killing himself. She landed a killing blow on Gilgamesh and was present when Ryder destroyed Assassin. Then Saber would kill Ryder similarly to Gil. She then would kill Berserker and fight Archer. Kiritsugu, after finding out the Holy Grail would grant no wishes and should be destroyed, used the remaining command seals to order Saber to destroy the Grail using her noble phantasm, Excalibur. Excalibur harnessed her mana and converted it into energy on a large scale. The Grail being destroyed would result in the death of hundreds being covered in fire and Grail mud. Kiritsugu would learn a harsh lesson that day. Kiritsugu would feel great sorrow for this and adopt a survivor of the catastrophe. Tokuyomi Tosaka was the master of archer in the Fourth Holy Grail War. Tokuyomi Tosaka was the representative of the Tosaka family in the war. Before the war began, Tokuyomi Tosaka had taken on an apprentice named Kirei Kotomine. Tosaka had planned to have Kirei help him in the fight as a fellow master. He would summon Gilgamesh as his servant. Gilgamesh is one of the oldest heroic spirits and is very powerful. Gilgamesh possesses many abilities, but his most noble is the Gates of Babylon. In life, Gilgamesh collects many treasures, allowing him to retain the prototypes of almost all weapons of noble phantasms. Among his treasures are aircrafts he would use in combat and his greatest weapon, Ea. Ea ruptures space and time, shredding any enemies of Gilgamesh. He would use Ea against Rider, defeating his Ionoi Hitayuroi. He would also face off against Saber in the final battle. Instead of fighting a lot during the war, Gilgamesh focused more on manipulation and scheming. He would betray Tokuyomi Tosaka by driving a wedge between Tosaka and Kotomine, resulting in Kotomine crossing Tosaka and making Gilgamesh his servant. Kirei Kotomine was the son of the church overseer in the Holy Grail War. He would also be the apprentice of Tosaka, allowing him to have many options during the war. Kirei would be the master of Assassin. Assassin is the 100-faced Hassan. Assassin can have 80 versions of themselves present at a time. Each of these individuals specialize in something. Even if one dies, the servant still lives on. At the beginning of the war, part of Tosaka's plan was to have Kirei pretend to have lost his servant and retire but secretly still be in play. Kirei would sacrifice one of his assassins, having him killed by Archer, making the other servants believe Assassin was dead. During the war, Kirei and his servant would act behind the scenes, only scouting and getting involved when necessary. At one moment, the servants of Rider, Archer, and Saber met and discussed what it means to be a king. It's quite an interesting discussion, but Assassin attempts to attack and kill them all in full force. Unfortunately for Assassin, their numbers were not helpful, and they would never beat any of these three in a frontal confrontation. Rider would use his noble phantasm, Ionioi Hitayuroi, to summon forth any army of loyal heroic spirits. Rider's army would kill every version of Assassin. Along with his father being murdered by Kenneth, Kirei would receive many command seals as he would take over as the overseer. Now that Kirei had no servants, and Gilgamesh had helped Kirei understand his evil thoughts, he would betray Tosaka by killing him. He would also orchestrate the crushing of Karia's heart and mind, resulting in Aoi Tosaka being strangled and left as a vegetable. Kotomine would then have Gilgamesh become his servant, and they would fight against Kiritsugu and Saber. Kirei would lose against Kiritsugu, dying, but being filled with Grail mud, staying alive with a blackened heart and soul. Archer would also end up covered in Grail mud, resulting in him being able to stay in the world after the war had ended. This video is sponsored by NordVPN. Staying safe online is an ever-growing difficulty, and hackers could exploit you. NordVPN allows you to change your IP address, making you harder to track, securing your privacy, in addition to providing you with safe passage through the web. You can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services. Are you tired of going through 2, 3, or even 4 streaming services to watch your favorite anime? Well, with NordVPN, you can change your country and be able to binge shows like My Hero Academia, Naruto, and many others on your favorite streaming service with just a press of a button. Check out the link in the description to get 72% off when buying for 2 years, $3.29 a month. This deal is for a limited time, and thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Now that we've covered the first half of the Masters and Servants, let's finish with the following 3. Waver Velvet was the master of Rider and a student of Kenneth. Waver Velvet, a newer generation of OrMaDz, was looked down upon by his students and Kenneth, his teacher. To prove himself worthy and everyone wrong, he stole the item Kenneth was going to use to summon a heroic spirit and used it himself. Waver would summon Alexander the Great, known in the show as Iskander the Conqueror, as Rider. Rider and Waver would have a positive relationship that would result in Waver holding on to his time with Rider many years later. The duo would show up in many fights during the war. Rider would force Lancer to fight solo against Saber or risk getting jumped by him. He would also fight against the caster's monster. He would slay Assassin using his noble phantasm, Ionoi Hitayuroi, before getting defeated by Archer and then destroyed by Saber. Waver, during that experience, would watch and learn from Ryder and be hurt by his loss. Finally, he would retire from the war and return to the clock tower. Kariya Matol was the representative of the Matol family in the Fourth Holy Grail War. He would join not because of his want for the Grail, but to save Sakura. The Matol family took in Sakura because Kariya had left the family, leaving no OrMaDz descendant. To keep Sakura from an awful fate, he would join the war and attempt to win. He would be the master of Berserker. Berserker would be called the Black Knight for most of its moments, but was revealed to be the Knight Lancelot. Kariya would be a thorn in the side of many masters and servants by having Berserker interfere in many fights. Kiritsugu would eventually target Kariya by making Tosaka's wife think Kariya killed Tosaka. With his mind and heart broken, he would strangle her and lose a lot of his will. Berserker would eventually suck too much mana out of his master, leading to Kariya dying in front of Sakura, failing to save her. Berserker would fight at many points against Archer and Saber. Finally, Saber would be the one that would kill the Berserker. Saber realized that the Camelot Round Table was in despair after she died. Uryu Ryunosuke had no association with Magus or the Holy Grail War, and he was a serial killer that stumbled upon the war and accidentally summoned Castor. After summoning Castor, he would become infatuated with his thinking and become his follower. Castor was Gildere, a comrade of Joan of Arc. Gil, like his master Uryu, loved murdering people, especially children. Together they would kill many people to indulge their twisted fantasies and notions surrounding God. Due to the mass killings, the church overseer commanded everyone to stop them, and the person who killed them would receive a command seal. After meeting Saber, Castor mistook her for Joan of Arc. He believed her mind was broken and she didn't know who she was. So Castor decided he would try to take her and free her mind. Castor would be crazy, but was driven even madder. He would create monsters and eventually turn into a nightmare himself. His abilities were to use Prelati's spellbook, allowing him to summon endless hordes of demonic minions and a gigantic horror that would take many heroic spirits to defeat. He can also do basic magic techniques and create magical items. Uryu would meet his end while Castor was fighting everyone when Kiritsugu would assassinate him. Uryu loved seeing his blood and enjoyed dying. Castor was eventually defeated after Saber used Excalibur to obliterate him. These 7 masters and servant duos would make up the combatants in the Fourth Holy Grail War. Each of them had their drive and reason to compete in the Holy Grail War, and only 3 masters, Kirei, Kiritsugu, and Waver, would survive the war. Each of them would experience significant loss and ideological changes because of the war. Fate Zero has a lot of character-driven stories and progression. All these characters and their individual ideals shine in the anime. It shows just as much of the heroic spirit's personalities and aspirations as the masters. Fate Zero perfectly weaves 14 different ways of thinking together and shows them off in the Holy Grail War. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials have got you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I'd like to extend you an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members from 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.